With Amazon's Fallout TV series back in full swing, many players are jumping into Fallout 4 again or experiencing the game for the first time. If that's you, you're probably wondering what the best Fallout 4 builds are now for the game. In this video, I'll be breaking down my top 5 favorite picks for the best builds you can play right now in Fallout 4, including their pros and cons, best starting stats, and most essential perks, along with the best weapons, armor, and companions to give you the best start possible on your latest journey through the Wasteland. As usual, timestamps are provided below if you need to skip around or rewatch a section, and let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 5, we have the Diplomat build, aka the Charisma or Leadership build. If you're the type of player that prefers words over weapons, then this Diplomat build is your ticket to a better Wasteland. This character build for Fallout 4 is all about maximizing charisma, leveraging those leadership perks, and turning settlements into hubs of prosperity. Players who love the settlement building system, crafting, questing, dialogues, or just want to avoid combat or manipulate NPCs, this is a really fun build. The obvious downsides here will be lack of damage and survivability. There does have to be a trade-off, honestly, for all those fun speech and charisma perks, so you won't be able to deal as much damage compared to the other builds on this list. However, you can use your companions to your advantage and even turn a hostile enemy friendly mid-fight. Not only does this work on humans, but creatures as well, giving you some extra support when you need it the most. Now, for starting stats, we recommend 1 into Strength, 4 Perception, 2 into Endurance, 10 for Charisma, 6 Intelligence, 1 into Agility, and 4 into Luck. With the final stats being shown on the screen right now. Speaking of which, now's a good time to mention that we do have leveling guides for every build on this list over on our website. That's hacktheminotaur.com. So check out the full build guides using the links down below if you're interested. Now, going over perks next. Some of your best options here for the Charisma build are going to be Wasteland Whisper and Intimidation. These 2 perks allow you to pacify creatures and humans and even issue them specific commands. These aren't always 100% reliable, but they do allow you to truly feel like a master manipulator. The inspirational perk helps your companions perform better in combat, adding a ton of additional support to this build, letting you use those companions as meat shields basically in combat. Just make sure your companions have the best gear, and this perk will make them incredibly efficient. And then you have the local leader perk, which is going to be a must-have for anyone who loves settlement building in Fallout 4. This chains together resources and lets you build a massive network of materials and bases, making settlement building that much more effective. Now, in terms of ideal weapons and armor for a speech build, unfortunately, there aren't a ton of options in Fallout 4 that support this type of playstyle. But for armor choices, you can use the Reginald suit and formal hat. For example, these boost your charisma even higher with +3 and +1 bonuses. Reginald's suit is awarded for completing the curtain call via Rex Goodman. Now, because this is a costume, it doesn't have any armor, though it does have that nice boost to charisma. You could use this maybe later on in the game with power armor if you want some better defensive options. And lastly, for companions on this build, you can try recruiting maybe a tougher companion early on, like Strong, for example, which will greatly help to make up for your lack of combat potential. While Dogmeat is also great on Lone Wanderer style builds, you'll probably need some extra firepower, which makes Strong a solid option. Also, make sure you don't neglect your companion gear. As we said, you always want to look to upgrade their weapons and armor so they become more effective in combat. But the best companion I have found for a speech-focused build is going to be Piper because of her unique affinity perk called Gift of Gab. This doubles the XP for discovering new locations and successful speech checks, and is arguably one of the most powerful early game perks, especially for this style of charisma build. Using Piper can help you power level while roaming and passing those speech checks, so she's another great addition to this build. Coming in next at number 4, we have the Power Armor build for Fallout 4. This provides the player with a unique way to play the game that includes massive damage reduction combined with heavy weapons that deal a ton of damage. You basically have the highest damage resistance in the game, and your own damage is enhanced through spamming heavy weapons. And with new additions to Fallout 4 like better power armor options and even jetpacks, this build is just a ton of fun to play. The downside of the power armor is it's slow to start, and while you can get an early set, acquiring those fusion cores and the best perks and weapons in this instance will take a while for this build to reach its full potential. Also, your movement will be on the low end, especially inside buildings or trying to navigate to talk with NPCs. Plus, ammo can be expensive at the beginning of the game, so you may have to use random lower quality weapons, especially if you plan on playing a survival mode. And lastly, this is not a stealth build, so expect everyone to know and hear you coming. Still, this is an extremely effective build, especially in regard to those defensive capabilities and damage output, like I said, making it well worth the effort. Now, for starting stats for a power armor focused build, I recommend you putting 5 points into strength, 5 into perception, 1 into endurance, 6 into charisma, 9 intelligence, 1 agility, and 3 into luck. As always, make sure to check out the leveling guide linked in the description down below to see the full progression of stats and especially perks to get the most out of this build possible. And speaking of perks, the most important for a power armor build that you want to unlock include the Heavy Gunner perk, which will help improve your hipfire accuracy so that you can use VATS to hipfire more effectively. You'll even have a chance to stagger enemies, basically letting you constantly rain bullets down on them to lock them in place without them ever even reaching you. The Nuclear Physicist perk is also great for fusion core sustainability and damage boost for a Gatling laser. You can also eject cores like grenades, though this can be a bit tricky. Really, this perk is just essential for sustainability so that you can stay in that power armor for longer. The Explosives Expert perk is going to be essential if you like to focus on powerful explosive weapons. The Explosive Legendary trait, or you just enjoy chucking out grenades. The Science and Armor perk are helpful for defense, utility, and weapon modding, along with the Gun Nut perk as well. And then finally, Scrounger, which is going to help with finding ammo for high-powered guns, which can be very challenging early on. Scrounger does help a lot with this, but you don't have to get this one. It is great on higher difficulties or survival mode. Now, some of the best weapons for this power armor setup include the Gatling laser, which I already mentioned, along with the Wounding Legendary effect. This will be great for sustained DPS for medium to long range encounters. That is aided by the Heavy Gunner and Nuclear Physicist perks that I already mentioned. Then you have the Explosive Minigun, which is even more DPS with the legendary version where that legendary can explode rounds. This is great cheap ammo that can cause very high damage. And then also a missile launcher with a 2-shot legendary. This is going to be your long-range explosive option. Ammo for this one is obviously a bit more scarce, so you can save your missiles to open up fights and then swap over to the Gatling laser for more sustained DPS. Now, for armor, of course, there's many options as you progress through the ranks of power armor in Fallout 4. You've got the T-45, your basic model that you can get in the initial fight in Concord. This will serve you pretty well for a while, but I don't recommend modding it a ton because you will end up replacing it rather quickly. Then you've got the T-60, which is a big upgrade to your power armor. The easiest way to obtain this is through joining the Brotherhood of Steel or just stealing one from them. You can also buy pieces from Rowdy at the Adam Cat's garage with a custom paint job. You do want to consider upgrading this model as it's great and it can get you all the way to endgame. But of course, then you have the X1 and now the X02. Both of these models you can max out in terms of mods. Speaking of which, in terms of mods, some of the best options I've found include the sensor array and targeting hood for the helmet, the jetpack and core assembly for the chest piece, Tesla coils and optimized bracers for arms, and then calibrated shocks for legs for that extra carry weight. And finally, for a recommended companion, Paladin Danse is probably your best companion for the power armor build because of his affiliation with the Brotherhood of Steel and also the Know Your Enemy affinity perk. Once you max out his affinity through his quests and dialogue, Know Your Enemy grants plus 20 damage versus synths, ghouls, and super mutants, giving you a massive damage boost against the hardest enemies in the game. The second option would be using Dogmeat and the Lone Wanderer perk. With the Lone Wanderer, you gain damage reduction, increased damage, and carrying capacity. Dogmeat uniquely doesn't qualify as a companion, so you can pretty much get the best of both worlds in that situation. However, there's just something cool about rolling into a fight with 2 power armored characters on the battlefield, making Paladin Danse the best overall choice. Coming in at number 3, we have the melee build for Fallout 4. Now, this one is going to focus obviously on using melee weapons, not fist or unarmed though in this case, along with perks to greatly reduce your incoming damage, basically turning you into a walking tank. But this melee build will have tons of damage in close range, plus high mobility, and is a fun and unique way to play Fallout 4. It'll focus on perks like Big Leagues, Rooted, and Lone Wanderer to have great damage reduction, while fighting in close quarters as one of its best strengths. Another huge benefit though of playing a melee build in Fallout 4 is no ammo is needed. This will greatly limit the amount of additional perk points, weapons, and crafting that you need, making the build very simple and effective without tons of investments necessary. You also gain high damage reduction, as I said. While it seems counterintuitive, playing in melee range with this playstyle makes you feel basically invincible. In terms of downsides though, you will need to manage your AP so you can strike carefully while in melee range. You will also be vulnerable to range attacks and anything that's flying, so picking your targets carefully is going to be especially important on this build. It also is a bit slow to start as a melee playthrough and take some perks to get the full effects of this build going. Once you do that, however, it is an awesome build for Fallout 4 that can be put together with minimal caps investment required. In terms of your starting stats, we've got 10 into strength, 1 perception, 10 into endurance, 3 charisma, 2 intelligence, 1 into agility, and 1 into luck. As always, check out the link below for the full leveling guide and perk progression. But speaking of perks, you should definitely invest into Big Leagues. This is your baseline damage increase with melee weapons in Fallout 4. Only accounts for melee though, not unarmed, so make sure you're using some type of melee weapon right from the start, whether it's a knife, a sledgehammer, what have you. The Rooted perk is another great choice for this build with massive defense and damage while stationary. Your goal basically then becomes to run up to a target or use VATS to stay stationary once you engage to take advantage of this huge bonus. The Blacksmith and Armor perks are also great for maximum weapon and armor modding. You'll need both and eventually Science if you want to use Power Armor for even stronger defenses. Then you have Toughness, Adamantium Skeleton, and Life Giver being 3 perks just to help with the overall survivability of this build. This will give you tons of HP damage reduction without even using armor, so these offer another great bonus. And then finally, Lone Wanderer is huge for this build if you're okay with giving up a companion or simply using dog meat, but in exchange, getting huge damage reduction and a damage increase. Mostly your companions get in the way on a melee build anyway, so this is pretty much a no-brainer, I think, for the highest damage reduction possible. Now in terms of weapons for this one, there are a few standouts here, including Super Sledge. This makes a great choice as your primary weapon due to its raw damage. You could add the stun pack to the head of the weapon, helping to stun enemies when hit. The Sledgehammer is another great option as your primary weapon. You can purchase that Super Sledge from Good Neighbor. The second option I recommend early on is going to be Grognek's Axe. This two-handed weapon deals huge damage with a medium swing speed, and it's easy to pick up early in the game from Hubris Comics. Stick with this weapon and upgrade it after you have some caps for a truly deadly melee weapon. When it comes to armor, Grognek's costume, also from the Hubris comics, is actually a pretty great option. This one gives you +2 strength and a 25% damage modifier to melee weapons. It also comes with some damage reduction and allows you to wear other armor pieces beyond just the costume. So you can still craft and upgrade your armor and retain that massive damage bonus to your melee attacks. For other pieces of armor, look to upgrade combat armor with the weighted trait so that your melee attacks can also ignore enemy armor. This build will eventually be effective with power armor as well, so feel free to use that. It won't be until mid or later levels when you actually have enough intelligence and perks like Science to upgrade your power armor, but when you do, stick to the T60 or above, and make sure to grab the optimized bracers for your arm slot for the reduced AP cost of power attacks. It's something that we haven't really talked about for the other builds on this list, but is especially effective with melee builds, is going to be consumables. Now, you don't need to use chems if you don't want to take the time to do so, but they do add a lot of strength in particular to this build. Now, the ultimate chem for a melee build is going to be Psycho Jet. This provides the unique ability to slow down time with the jet effect, and it'll also significantly boost your damage and damage resistance with the Psycho effect. This mix also lasts for about 15 seconds. You can also get extra action points, which is going to be helpful for maximizing the number of power attacks or hits you can execute while in VATS. So while you can overlook chems on a lot of these builds, they absolutely make a huge difference as a melee playthrough. Finally, the best option for a companion, as I said with the melee build, could be a dog meat in this case, especially if you want to make use of that Lone Wanderer perk. This is going to give you more damage reduction, plus increase your own damage without worrying about something getting in the way. If you absolutely want to bring a true companion along for some story elements, consider Preston Garvey in that case. He has the United We Stand perk, which gives a damage reduction and damage bonus while surrounded by enemies in melee range. I don't think this outweighs the benefits of Lone Wanderer, but it does make a good option if you are all in on companions. And moving on to build number 2 on this list, and it's one of my personal favorites for the Fallout franchise, which is an Outlaw or Gunslinger style build. Now, we do have a full video guide on this build already, which I'll have linked down below if you're interested. But the Gunslinger build in Fallout 4 is all about attack damage, crit damage, and optimizing for VATS. This build uses close to medium range weapons, primarily pistols, and VATS to grant you huge damage multiplier. With another added advantage of the VATS focus is that you can cripple limbs and disarm your opponents. This gives you that outlaw theme and feel through those gameplay mechanics, and it's also extremely good against death claws or other overpowered enemies that you wouldn't be able to take out otherwise. Simply cripple their legs, back up, let your AP regen a bit, and finish them off. The strength of this build really is its low AP cost with non-automatic pistols and those aim shots that also negate enemy damage resistances. The real downside to the Gunslinger build though is the amount of perk points that you'll be needing for effective combat. You may need to actually forgo perks like armor or blacksmith in order to perform the best in combat with this build, especially without using power armor. You can acquire those perks of course later on in the game, but some players who enjoy crafting and settlement building right away might find this build more difficult to start with. Now for starting stats, we're going to focus heavily on luck and agility with a recommended loadout of 1 into strength, 3 perception, 1 endurance, 3 charisma, 1 intelligence, and 9 into both agility and luck. This will give you some very powerful perks to choose from, including Gun Fu, where each target you hit during the same VATS sequence will basically take increased damage, so it stacks as you keep switching targets, and for a gunslinger that means you can start on the weakest opponent, then your later shots hit much harder on tougher enemies without changing weapons. You've also got the 4-leaf clover perk, where each VATS hit has a chance to fill your critical meter. Pistols fire lots of VATS shots very cheaply, so you roll that chance more often and build criticals faster than any build in the game. Speaking of which, Critical Banker lets you store multiple critical hits instead of being capped at 1 full crit meter. For a pistol build, this means you can enter a fight with 2 to 4 crits saved and spend them back to back on legendaries, bosses, or enemies that you need to stagger or cripple immediately. I also recommend better criticals for increased damage to your critical hits. This perk should help you improve your ability to kill tougher targets even faster. Of course, you've got the Gunslinger perk, which increases your baseline damage with non-automatic pistols, and higher ranks add a chance to disarm and cripple targets. Finally, Bloody Mess gives a flat damage increase to all weapons, so it'll also boost your pistol damage, including VATS, shots, and crits without requiring any special conditions, so it's a consistent DPS boost for the entire build. Now, some of the best early weapons for the Gunslinger build will include Kellogg's pistol. This one has a high burst damage, it's a unique 44 revolver. The unique effect here is it refills your action points on a critical hit, and since we are building for crits, you can cycle through basically endless rounds in VATS with this one. With 2 perk points invested into quick hands, you can even reload in VATS without using AP, which is pretty awesome. Kellogg's pistol can be obtained as part of the main story quest, though even a base type 44 Magnum revolver is going to make a great alternative. The Deliverer pistol is another unique weapon that works great on this build as well. This one fires 10mm rounds in a single shot, with the effect of improved VATS hit chance and 25% less action point cost, which is pretty amazing. The Deliverer is going to be great to use when stealth is necessary, or if you want to upgrade your pistol beyond what the 44 mag is capable of. However, it's worth noting that this one can be annoying. You'll need to work with the Railroad faction and complete the Trade Craft quest first. Now, one of the best defensive progressions I've found for the Gunslinger playstyle is actually with costumes, not armor. The reason here being that the Gunslinger doesn't necessarily have the perk points needed to upgrade that armor, especially early on in the game. However, the Silver Shroud costume and hat grants damage reduction and also a bonus to agility and perception. This one will help your build overall, and it's a great way to look cool, reduce your damage, and increase your stats. The Silver Shroud costume can even be upgraded too, and at max quality offers a lot of damage reduction. To obtain this one, listen to the Silver Shroud station on your Pip-Boy, and this will lead you to Good Neighbor, where your interaction with a ghoul named Kent Connolly and completing the quest chain will eventually allow you to do upgrades. And yeah, you can consider power armor for a late game option on this one, though with the downside of less mobility and the constant need for fusion cores. But in terms of companions for a Gunslinger build, I tend to lean towards Dogmeat again on this one, because it does sort of fit that cowboy outlaw theme. Dogmeat, of course, is the best option if you're interested in the Lone Wanderer perk, where with 3 ranks invested, you gain a massive stat boost, 30% less damage, 25% more damage done, and carry an additional 100 more pounds. Since Dogmeat doesn't count as a companion for this perk, you get to keep all these bonuses while still having that good boy by your side. He's also pretty good in combat, great for distracting enemies, giving you a chance to set up a perfect VAT shot or sneak attacks, has a chance to scramble for and find useful items like ammo and stim packs, so he is a great option for this one. But that brings us to our number 1 build on this list, which is going to be the Stealth Sniper. So if you're looking to sneak, snipe, and one-shot enemies, this is a must-have Fallout 4 build for you. Stealth builds are among the most fun and rewarding ways to play in Fallout 4, offering a unique playstyle focused on remaining undetected and delivering high damage attacks. One of the best ways to play any Bethesda RPG is at range, sneaking, and with stealth. Fallout 4 is no different because the game gives you massive damage modifiers for being stealthed, using a silencer on your weapon, and hitting headshots. Now, there are downsides, of course, to playing a stealth build, that being the required range and, of course, lower survival. You'll be most effective here at max range, outdoors in a wide open space. However, using a silenced pistol and even a stealth combat knife for melee damage can make short work of up-close targets as well. And of course, your overall HP and survivability will be weaker, especially once you're detected. However, the pros, I think, definitely outweigh the cons on this build, with your ability to eliminate targets with one hit, making it one of the most effective builds in the entire game. Now, in terms of stat distribution, you want to start with 3 points into strength, 8 into perception, 1 endurance, 3 charisma, 3 intelligence, 7 agility, and 3 into luck. In terms of the best perks for the Stealth Sniper, we have Sneak, of course. This reduces your chances of being detected and adds protection against triggering floor traps and mines at higher ranks. For a Stealth Sniper, this one keeps you hidden while you line up shots and lets you reposition without instantly pulling the whole area. You also have the Ninja perk, which increases the damage multiplier for sneak attacks, which does include ranged sneak attacks. Snipers get a lot of their kills from opening shots while hidden, and Ninja makes those first shots hit much harder, so enemies die before they can even react to you. In addition, the Rifleman perk boosts your damage for non-automatic rifles, including the hunting rifle, combat rifle, etc., and later ranks add a chance to stagger and cripple limbs. This is your core damage perk for a Stealth Sniper because most of your best long-range weapons count as non-automatic rifles. The Sniper perk, of course, improves scoped accuracy and adds some controlling effects with later ranks, giving a chance to knock down targets and removing scope sway. For a Stealth Sniper, it makes long shots more reliable and helps you stop enemies from closing the distance if they actually survive the first hit. The Gun Nut perk unlocks higher level weapon mods and upgrades at the weapon workbench, which will be essential for improving this build. And finally, the Mr. Sandman perk increases damage with silenced weapons and also enables instant kills on sleeping targets at close range. Now, the best weapons for starting off as a Stealth Sniper will include the Overseer's Guardian Rifle. This is a special combat rifle that fires up to 2 bullets, and you can modify and use this all the way up to level 50. A true endgame though, you could swap to a Gauss rifle for even more damage, and for close range targets, consider the Deliverer pistol, which I already mentioned for the Gunslinger build. This silenced pistol is going to be optimal for inside buildings and contained spaces, especially while stealthed. Now, in terms of armor, really anything is fine because your goal here is to remain undetected from as far away as possible. And as you improve your armor throughout the game, though, pay attention to bonus effects which further enhance your stealth playstyle, like Shadowed, which improves stealth in dark areas, Sleek, which increases your movement speed while sneaking, and the Muffled effect, which reduces detection while moving. There's also Chameleon, which has the same effect as a Stealth Boy, allowing you to go invisible when you sneak. This is going to be ideal, and it also drops in chest, arms, and legs at higher levels. Now, some useful companions to consider for the Stealth Sniper build include Deacon, who has a bonus to stealth, McCready with his bonus to VATS for sniping, and even Piper to help you pass speech checks and level up faster. And of course, Dogmeat is great on this one too if you really want to lean into that Lone Wanderer perk, while also getting some solid combat assistance early on as you level up. But with that said, that's going to wrap up this video of my top 5 builds for Fallout 4. Make sure to check out the full written guides for each of these builds, which we'll have linked below, or just search on our website, that's hacktheminotaur.com. Let me know in the comment section any of your favorite builds that I missed on this list, and thanks again for watching.